No, terrible idea. I hate it. Hopefully it goes away immediately, because what a stupid idea. But Kevin Feige's going to run with it. He's going to run with it. It's going to be a thing. We're going to get it probably through Doomsday and Secret War. God, they've really screwed it up, haven't they?
The rumor turns out to be true. Robert Downey Jr. is returning to the MCU, not as Iron Man, but as Dr. Doom. It sounds like a lot of people have had different opinions on this one, and who better to talk with about this than our good friend Aaron Sparrow. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing well. I'm hanging in there, man. The horrors persist, and so do I.
So this rumor was out there last week, and we talked about it a little bit on the Geek Fix, but it wasn't, in fact, true yet. And now we know that it is going to happen. And last week, I was much more open to the idea, where you were a little bit more closed-minded.
I was. I've had some time to think about it, and I still have a couple of different thoughts on the subject. But the idea of Robert Downey Jr. coming in and playing Dr. Doom, in my head, it was like, okay, so he's going to be a Tony Stark variant of Dr. Doom, and I was like, I don't like that. But they're calling him Victor Von Doom, so it makes me think that they're going to bring him in, and he's not going to play Tony Stark. He'll probably be under some prosthetic makeup, and he'll be doing like a character piece. So maybe he really will be a great Doctor Doom. Maybe there is a chance for that. It is strange to me that they're doing that, but maybe it's also a smokescreen. Maybe this is how they like sneak him back in as Iron Man without making that announcement.
Let's hear about all the details for that. Robert Downey Jr. is returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Dr. Doom in a new Avengers movie titled Avengers Doomsday, which will be directed by Joe and Anthony Russo in their own return to Marvel. The directing duo is on deck to helm two new Avengers movies, Doomsday, which will introduce Victor Von Doom, Dr. Doom, and Avengers Secret Wars. Downey's return as the villainous Victor Von Doom comes as a massive shock to the fandom, including the ecstatic audience at Marvel's presentation at San Diego Comic-Con. We've got Robert Downey Jr. returning, but also the Russo brothers, who delivered some pretty awesome movies, specifically with their Captain America Winter Soldier. We got Civil War. They did the last two Avengers movies, Infinity War as well as Endgame. I almost feel like they're a bigger get. I
think so. I think that a lot of it will depend, obviously, on the script. With the Russo brothers coming back, are Marcus and McFeely coming back, because they were responsible for, much, I would say a huge amount of the success of the MCU and what people loved about it. And since they've been gone, since the Russos have been gone, since Kevin Feige has not had anybody in there who's an actual architect, and it seems to have been left to his leadership, it seems like everything has fallen apart. So I think that getting these guys back in is a big get. And apparently that was what Robert Downey Jr. coming back and doing anything was contingent on, was that the Russo brothers would direct. So it is a positive step for the Marvel Cinematic Universe to say that, okay, we made some mistakes and we're going to try to course correct and go back to what works. I just don't know if the excitement's there anymore. I don't know if it's been too much crap for too long, and if people have just sort of checked out. I mean, I'm sure that the movie will do well. I just don't know that it's going to ever hit the heights again of, Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah, that's like the biggest movie in the history of movies.
And that was 10 years of solid build. This is only a couple of years. By the time Robert Downey Jr. is in Doomsday, he'll be like 75 years old.
What do you think about Doomsday as a title? I think it's perfectly fine. It doesn't jump like right into my mind exactly what story they're going to be lifting this from.
I'm sure it'll be Hickman's Secret Wars. My feeling is that they'll combine all the multiverses onto one world, because they can, in their mind, that's what's worked. No Way Home made a ton of money. Obviously, Deadpool and Wolverine is making a ton of money, despite not being a very good story. It's just all, kind of like nostalgia bait and the coolness factor of seeing Hugh Jackman come back as Wolverine again, who everybody loves, wearing the costume, getting those little comic moments for the, the hardcore nerds. I think that's what they're banking on. So I'm sure we're going to see Doom combine everything into Battle World, and then we'll go from there.
I personally think that Robert Downey Jr. playing Victor Von Doom, which I assume will be a distorted version of Tony Stark that becomes Victor Von Doom over time in some other multiverse or whatever, has the potential to be really, really good. But there's two things about it that have me very, very worried. Number one, that he won't be wearing the mask very often because he's Robert Downey Jr., and they're going to want to show his face because he's going to be the star, and I'm sure they're paying him like $35 to $50 million somewhere in there, which is $80 million. $80 million. Okay, it's 80. Well, okay, that's right. I said 35 to 50, 40 is right there in the middle.
But there's more, Wes. There's more. He also gets his own trailer compound Like basically, like not just his own trailer, but like a compound, like the Branch Davidian compound or something. He gets private jet to and from everywhere that he's got to go, and apparently, there's one other thing that escapes me that he gets, but he negotiated a really good contract. They needed him bad,
so I don't think he will have the mask on, which Victor Von Doom doesn't take the mask off. And then my other fear is that he won't be Victor Von Doom. He's just going to be a green evil, like a Stark Iron Man costume, which would be awful.
Yeah, and they'll make him snarky. He'll be Tony Stark snarky, which one of the things that I hated about the Jessica Alba Fantastic Four movies is like when they had Doom pun, and it was like, this is not Victor Von Doom. Even though I liked the actor that they chose, like they did not give him a Dr. Doom role to play. So I am worried about that. But at the same time, I'm really not worried because I'm so checked out on these movies that like it's going to take a lot to get me to go back to the theater. Like I haven't even seen Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't have any plans to see it. So they'll really have to put their best foot forward, put out some great trailers, give me some stuff to really sink my teeth in before I commit to going back and seeing these films. And maybe I'm in the minority there, but it's certainly that's where I'm at.
I do think it was pretty clear that they were gonna have to do something, and Doctor Doom made the most sense once you couldn't do anything with Kang, not only because of Jonathan Majors and all of his legal troubles, but also because Kang just wasn't working. The only real villain they've had, I think, in phases 4 and 5 that I think would have felt big enough to fill those kind of shoes would have been the High Evolutionary. So it really did feel like Doctor Doom was going to be the path that they chose. And it just so happens, I guess, it's Robert Downey Jr. making his return, which is something that they were always going to have to do to, re-spark interest in the MCU probably anyway.
Obviously, we're headed towards Secret Wars so they can reset everything and then try to launch, back with the characters that everybody likes. I don't know how successful it's going to be. I mean, I think that after a while, you just you run out of momentum and you run out of fan goodwill. And I think we've really hit that with phases 4 and 5. So I think that, these next movies, I mean, they're going to be expensive. I think they'll be mild successes. They'll probably bank maybe 100 million, 200 million profit. But I mean, is that worth spending $600 million to make?
This is what one site said. While this is huge news, it is pretty clearly a move based on Marvel feeling like they were in a break glass in case of emergency situation. Dr. Doom has not even officially joined the MCU yet, and bringing back Robert Downey Jr. to play the villain feels like a totally out of left field move by Marvel. Some critics are calling the move desperate, feeling bringing Downey back in this way is a shock value decision rather than something carefully planned. It also gives off the impression that Marvel is hoping fans will be so excited to see Robert Downey Jr. back that they will be willing to ignore the mess this leaves the MCU in. And that really is the case here, to where, clap and don't think about all the stuff that's happened and what this really means for the MCU and why it was so successful in the first place, that everything was carefully mapped out, that things were set up years in advance. And then when you got there, it felt so huge because you've been building. You're not building to this at all.
The best thing that you can really do actually is to not, now that you haven't done any building and you're just kind of trying to course correct, is just make these next several movies standalone. Don't make them dependent upon 4 and 5. Don't even mention 4 and 5 if you can avoid it. Just kind of pick up from the end of Endgame as best you can, because that's where a lot of people checked out. We don't need all these connection. You don't have to make a connection to the Eternals. You don't have to make a connection to Captain Marvel. Although I hear that they're going to finally touch on the big celestial coming out of the ocean, and that's where we're going to get it, adamantium in the MCU. And it's just all right, whatever. I mean, you don't need to go back and reference Shang-Chi. That movie means nothing in the greater Marvel universe. Just leave that alone. The Eternals mean nothing.
And even if people are excited for this now, we do have Deadpool and Wolverine breaking records right now, and obviously it's a huge hit. But you still got to get through Falcon Cap, which sounds like a mess. All word out there is that Thunderbolts is a mess. The entire Blade production has been a mess. So all the things that they've got to get through, including Fantastic Four, which will not apparently include this version of Victor Von Doom, even though we're told Doom would be in there. Some of that has to hit too before you can have any momentum really going into this, because I do think Brave New World will be a momentum killer for Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, absolutely. And no matter how much money Deadpool Wolverine makes, it's not going to cover the losses of Phases 4 and 5 and Captain America Brave New World and the Thunderbolts, likely will also be a financial disaster. They put too much money into all of these things, noodling around. There was that book that came out that said like, oh, well, Kevin Feige is a master of finding the story in the editing room. Apparently not. Like, apparently you have to have a solid enough script and enough, things that have been shot to put together into something good in the editing room. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like they've had that on any of these Phase 4 and 5 movies. So where did it all go wrong? Where did Marvel lose the ability to tell a story? And is it because they tried to go cheaper on the talent? They brought in all those Rick and Morty writers. What a disastrous idea. What a stupid idea. You can't just take, and I'm somebody who always says that like there's people in animation that could move on to live action and really knock it out of the park. Like obviously, if DC, instead of making Zack Snyder their architect of their DC universe, if they had put Paul Dini in charge, we would have got some really great product. I'm not saying that Paul needs to go out and direct the movies or anything like that, but as like the lore master and keeping everything, everything running, I think he could have done it. Greg Weisman, same deal. Guys in animation that have proved themselves to be able to craft these worlds and have a string of continued successes could oversee these projects. But giving animation writers like the ones on Rick and Morty, who their sense of humor is just to shit on everything, which works for that show because that's what that show is designed to do. But then handing them the Marvel universe and expecting them to take anything seriously, they just turned it all into a big joke. And when you turn it all into a big joke, the audience loses its investment in those characters. The moment you make a joke that in this dimension, the Infinity Stones are all paperweights, it's like, okay, well, I guess all that was for nothing then. Oh, the timelines are strictly controlled by the TVA. Okay, I guess nobody had any free will. I guess none of that mattered. You take away the things that make these stories special to people. You take away the decisions of the characters and the sacrifices that they made and all of the things that make us connect to these things, and you just give us a total disconnect.
So do you think this was the right time to break in case of emergency? To bring Robert Downey Jr. back, to announce the new Doomsday, to where you're playing off the excitement and goodwill apparently generated by Deadpool and Wolverine, despite, you probably got some craps in there, but letting people know that something cool potentially is in there. And also the Russo brothers coming back, I think is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think to the faithful, I don't think it'll penetrate the general consciousness of the movie-going public. I think it just speaks to the hardcore. But, then the hardcore will go out and talk to their friends about it, and then people will kind of just generally be aware. And hopefully they still care by the time these movies actually get made and roll out. That's the gamble that Marvel's taking, is they needed a big announcement because aside from Robert Downey Jr., what did they have? Nothing. Downey Jr. and the Russo brothers are all they have. The announcement for those far-off Avengers films are literally the only thing at that panel that was of any interest, because nobody cares about Captain Falcon. Nobody cares about the Thunderbolts. I guess Bucky's not even in it, is what I'm hearing.
He was like the main guy.
I thought he was, but then I was hearing reports that like, no, he's not in it. It's Florence Pugh's White Widow. And I like Florence Pugh a lot. I like that character a lot. I like the way that she played her. I think she's cute as a button.
The Rachel Weisz of the MCU.
That's what I hear. But I don't know that she can carry that franchise. It's not gonna happen. She was in one movie that wasn't very well received.
So what do you think they're actually gonna do? How does this Victor Von Doom, Dr. Doom, come into existence? Do you think they're going to go into comic lore, or do you think they're just going to make something up?
I would hope they go into comic lore, because then at least maybe they can build on a solid foundation. But the track record suggests that they're not going to. We still don't know who's writing the script, I don't think. So, until I know that, I just I can't really make a determination. I think the chance that they bungle this is higher than they get it right. But the Russo brothers do give me some hope that we might get something good.
Now, there is a Marvel Comics writer out there who's saying, if you want to know how this happens, I've got your answers. The mystery of how and why Doom will be played by former Iron Man actor has stirred up much speculation, with some suggesting that this Doom will be a variant of Tony Stark, and others wondering if the forthcoming Avengers Doomsday movie will draw on Brian Michael Bendis and Alex Maleev's infamous Iron Man comic, which saw Victor Von Doom step into Tony Stark's metal shoes. Now, one of Marvel's key writers has suggested that an answer to the mystery may be forthcoming in the Ultimates #4. If you want to understand Robert Downey Jr. as Doom, you must read Ultimates 4 on September 4th. Writer Dennis Camp tweeted,
I have full faith that they don't even know how this happens yet. And I have full faith that Kevin Feige doesn't even know who Dennis Camp is. Look, I give Dennis Camp a little bit of credit. At least he's going out there and trying to get some heat for his terrible Ultimates book. Trying to get people interested in it, in a time where you don't see comic professionals marketing their stuff very much. They'd rather just, drone on about politics or lecture you or, about your privilege. I think it's nice to see somebody go out there and say like, hey, come on, and try and like gin up some excitement for his book. But let's be honest, this is just a this is a desperate gambit. And I'm all
think
for
that
it.
Kevin Feige's like, listen, routed ideas, Dennis. What are you doing with your Ultimates book? Because I need a new roadmap. You're my only hope now. You don't think that happens?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think as much as I wouldn't like it, I think the Bendis roadmap is probably more likely. Or if they're smart, they can go back and they can look at some of the old Bob Layton stuff. That would be pretty with David Michelini. That'd be pretty good. When he'd have Iron Man face off against Doom. And like I said, I think this is a smokescreen. Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. is going to play Doom, but I think it's really to get him back in as Iron Man.
I think there's going to be more than one Doom.
Yeah, which is a problem because the moment they showed you all those Kangs, nothing mattered.
Well,
and then when they had this is the big bad Kang, and then he gets beat by ants.
Yeah, it probably didn't work out very well for him. But I will give Dennis Camp, I have not been enjoying his Ultimates run very much. Full credit. Go out there and try and create something viral and make people think that this is going to be important to understanding how Robert Downey Jr. becomes Doom. But I don't believe that to be the case.
I don't think so at all.
I don't think anybody must read that.
No.
And after reading issue number 2, I think you should probably avoid it. Which sucks because we do have Native American Hawkeye coming up, which I think is a great design. I would like to read the character. Hopefully it's good.
I do like that design a lot.
Now, there is something else that's been introduced in Deadpool and Wolverine, and I know this probably doesn't have anything to do with Robert Downey Jr., Dr. Doom, but it's something that's bothering me, and I want to get it in this video, Aaron. Marvel's Deadpool and Wolverine introduces the new concept of anchor beings to the greater MCU multiverse, serving as the key reason why Hugh Jackman is returning as Wolverine despite his death in 2017's Logan. Deadpool's entire mission in his new movie hinges on the necessity for anchor beings and their vital importance. There are bad ideas, and then there's this. This is one of the dumbest concepts I've ever heard in my life. They came up with it to explain why he's not dead and why his universe is collapsing and why they can pull him out or whatever. Wolverine is not immortal. Are we trying to say that the universe never existed before he was born because he was the anchor being?
No, the universe was always building towards the anchor being born.
Like he's a messiah or something like that. Wolverine is not a messiah. He's not the great savior or anything. And the idea that entire universes collapse just because the anchor being, and I guess what Kevin Feige has alluded to, the anchor being of the MCU being Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is not immortal. He's not going to live forever. That's a really stupid concept.
Is the idea that then another anchor being will be born at some point and he just has to make it to that point? It's like a relay race where you just hand it off. It's a really bad idea. I had a similar idea for Darkwing Duck back in the day. Like I wanted to do a bit where, this cosmic being is telling Darkwing that, the most important being in the universe, the glue that holds it all together currently. And Darkwing thinking it's him. But really, at the end, it was Goslin, and it's not the entire universe. It's just Darkwing's universe is held together by this little girl that he loves. But it was meant to seem like it was a big thing, but then it just turns out it's a small, very personal thing. By making it a really big thing, like this idea of an anchor being, it's so dumb because it comes so close to like anchor baby.
You are correct. I almost said it a couple times.
Yeah, it's like I just keep almost saying anchor baby. Again, it makes the multiverse small. You would have just been much better. Like if I was in the meeting where they said and that's why the universe is falling apart is because it's anchor being blah blah blah, I would have said, why can't we just say that the multiverse is falling apart because we've destabilized the multiverse with everything that's gone on in phases 4 and 5
with the Disney acquisition of Fox? They're already making fun of it anyway.
Yeah, do that. Or if you want to spin that off into Doomsday and Secret Wars, you just say that, and you are going to do the Battle World plot, which they probably don't even know at this point.
Doomsday is the one that broke it.
Yeah, you get to build to that. Like, hey, we've got Jonathan Hickman already did it. All the realities are crashing into each other. and we have to try to save what we can. And then Doom does it by stitching it all together into Battle World.
I loved seeing the Avengers murder trillions of people over and over again in a comic book. And I'm not supposed to apparently question whether or not they could be morally bankrupt for doing so. Some of those worlds were completely innocent.
Yep.
They did nothing.
Yep, and it was just like you were just arbitrarily deciding that ours deserves to live and theirs deserves to die because there can be only one and it might as well be us.
Yeah, that was weird stuff, but breaking fundamental rules or creating new fundamental rules that break other rules about your multiverse, which is already kind of tenuous as it is, and you're already breaking apart your universe, just introducing the concept just so you can justify bringing Hugh Jackman as Deadpool back is a stupid idea. Like, whoever greenlighted that one, like, you forgot to think about the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth order effects, and people using common sense going, "Ooh, that's dangerous."
In that way, isn't that just the most current comic book kind of thing ever? Just thinking about the immediate short term. Mm-hmm.
The Infinity Stones, and it's like, oh yeah, these have no power. They're paperweights. It's like, you're not thinking about what you're implying and how it actually destabilizes all the story you've told that people invested in.
Don't think about story, Wes. Just look here. Just look at these keys. See these keys? Look at that. They're jangling. Look at that. Oh, look at. Remember Pyro? I remember.
I'll tell you this. I am a staunch not supporter of anchor beings. Terrible idea.
No, terrible idea. I hate it. Hopefully it goes away immediately, because what a stupid idea. But Kevin Feige's going to run with it. He's going to run with it. It's going to be a thing. We're going to get it probably through Doomsday and Secret War. God, they've really screwed it up, haven't they? If
you invested heavily in phases 4 and 5, you got to feel stupid now.
Yeah, well, I mean, you should feel stupid just based on what they largely were. Yeah, I mean, the only things that were like, okay, obviously No Way Home was a big crowd pleaser, and Guardians 3 was good, and that's it.
Yes.
Those are the only things that have been good since Endgame.
But I am hopeful that Robert Downey Jr. as Victor Von Doom is a good idea. I can see how it can work, not just one way. I can see 2 or 3 different ways that could be really good, really compelling, and be an awesome idea for the MCU that hopefully makes you forget about Kang and all the stuff that they flubbed along the way.
Oh, God, Kang.
But I just don't see a way that they don't have him without his mask on 90% of the time. And I feel like the writers are going to be like, it's got to be an Iron Man suit that looks like Doom, which I think will be terrible.
Like, just make him Victor Von Doom, put him under some scabrous makeup. Yes, it's still Robert Downey Jr. And if you're ghosting, if you're basically like sneaking in Tony Stark and Iron Man, like I think you might be doing, then there you go. That's where he can have his face unmasked, and Robert Downey Jr. is in the movie. But as Doom, keep him behind the mask, and if he does take it off, make him all scarred. I say don't take it off at all. I always like not seeing Doom. I think that the mask is his face. That's the way that it should be thought of. That's his true face.
Couldn't agree more. And if you would like more of this conversation, this is only about 20 to 25 minutes of a much longer 2.5 hour, 3-hour conversation for this week's Geek Fix, where we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about Deadpool and Wolverine, all the Fantastic Four rumors that are out there. We've got the Rachel Leishman stupid take of the week. We got our stupid tweet of the week and all that kind of stuff. Look into the video description if you would like to support us on Thinking Critical Patreon.